Those of you who know or don't know, basically for the last year I've been on a plant-based diet. It's totally vegan and it's mainly eating fruit and vegetables, and it's made me feel fantastic, and I've lost loads of weight. I've gone down quite a few dress sizes, and I'm carrying on with it. I think it's great, and I'm sort of documenting what I'm doing. I'm training for a half marathon, and I'm also growing a lot of my own fruits and vegetables to eat, because I'm obviously eating loads and I really enjoy gardening. Now today, I don't know if you can hear, it's chaos outside. It's very high winds, it's raining, our roads are flooded, it's like a little river out there. I was going to go for a run and I thought, you must be joking. It was horrible. It was actually quite scary. I sort of got to the end of the lane and thought, this is probably not a good idea. It's pretty rough out there, and yes, high winds, weather warnings, lots of rain, quite cold, and on a day like that, where better to be than inside the polytunnel? And what I'm doing today is I'm preparing my seed trays ready for planting this week. Now everyone has their own way of doing things and their own way of planting seeds, and I like to prepare. I'm not one of these people that goes, gets a seed tray, fills it up, put the seeds in and off to go. I like to prepare my trays in advance, because that's the fussy sort of person I am. And so I'm going to show you, this is what I do to prepare my seeds ready for planting. Now, if you can see down here, these are my cell trays. Remember I showed you I bought these from the garden centre, they were on offer, 40 little segments, and I'm going to put Monge 2 and I'm going to put peas and broad beans in these cells. Now what I've done is I filled them with compost. Now you have to firm them down a lot. You've got to imagine, you know when you put your children to bed and you tuck them in really well, or when you've had a new baby and the midwife cuddles it and then she wraps it really tightly in a blanket to keep it sort of snuggly and warm. Well, that's what you've got to think with your trays, with any type of trays, is you firm your compost right down, pass it right down, as if you're tucking them up tightly for bed. So I filled all these trays with compost, and I've watered them, and then what I will do is I'll leave these as they are in the polytunnel just to keep warm until I plant in them, because the compost is quite cold. It's been outside in the garden centre, it's been outside at home, and it's quite cold. Alright, and if I come over here, now these trays, these were actually free. They were in the garden centre and you could go and help yourself to these. And again, I've patted them down, and these are for squash. I've got courgettes, butternut squash and some pumpkin seeds. These are bigger cells. Now what I'm going to do with these is, if you can see under here, I'm wrapping these in plastic. I've got some more plastic here, and I will cover these trays for a couple of days. I've watered them. They won't dry out in here because it's too cold, and then I'll cover them with this plastic, and just to warm the compost up a little bit in there, because the seeds are quite delicate. Now the broad beans and the peas are a bit hardier, they're a bit tougher, so you can put them in a cooler bed, whereas these are the squash are a bit more nesh, so you have to put them in a slightly warmer bed. So I'm going to warm these with plastic for a couple of days. And then over here I've got my plastic cups. Now these are for things like peppers and tomatoes. Now I'm trying two different methods this time. I've filled half full these cups, and again you push them down, firm them in, you're tucking them up, ready for the seeds. So you firm the compost to make it all nice and compact. Now some I fill to the top, or almost to the top, because obviously once I put the seed in I'm going to put a little more compost over the top of that, but these I've only put a bit in. Now the idea is, I've seen this on the internet and I'm going to give it a go, is that you put your seed in here, and as it grows you add a bit more compost, and apparently it's supposed to put down better roots and becomes a sturdier plant. So that is the theory, so that's what I'll be doing. And this little polystyrene container here, again, was free at the garden centre. It was just with their cardboard boxes. and they said, oh, you know, you can just take them, and so that was great. It's insulated, and also it came with a lid. You see this lid here, which means when I actually plant the seeds, I give it a couple of days in here to warm them up, because tomatoes and peppers, they're really delicate. They like to be really nice and warm. So I'm warming these pots up really well in this little insulated box before I plant in there. And then once I have planted, I'll keep them in there, not only to keep warm, but also to keep the mice off them, because that is one of my biggest problems, is the mice just go in the pots and eat the seeds. And then over here, I have some seed trays, and again, I've compacted it down, pressed it down, and in here is going to be things like leeks. So they're very small, and again, I want those to be quite warm because they're tiny seeds, and again, they're quite delicate seeds. And I've got this under the bed storage container that I wasn't using, and if you can see that, my dodgy camera skills. Basically, it's just one of these under the bed storage, and I've just put the seed trays in there, both sides. I haven't filled the compost trays right to the top, because obviously once I plant the seeds in there, I will be sprinkling some more compost on the top, so you have to give room to add a bit more. Plus, if you got it right to the top and you wash it once you've planted your seeds can actually be washed out and over the top, so it's always best to leave a little bit of space. And I've pressed it down nice and firm, and I've put this in this under the bed storage. Got the dog helping me here to keep that nice and warm, and so that's the sort of different trays I've got in here at the moment. Basically, the idea is that I fill my compost trays, and then I keep them inside or under cover or wrapped up just for a day or two to warm the compost a little bit before I put the seeds in. It's a bit like getting into a nice warm bed. You know, the difference is if you go to bed and you haven't done a hot water bottle or anything, and you get in and it's freezing, and you're there and you go, I don't want to move, don't touch the covers, it's freezing, and you're there really cold and it feels horrible, and you don't want to do anything, you're just there. Whereas if you get into a nice warm bed and you're all cosy and it's lovely, it's much nicer, and that's basically the environment I'm trying to get for my little seeds. So I've put them here, and I'll keep them in the polytunnel for a couple of days just to warm up, and then I'll plant my seeds in them. But I will do a little video and show you when I actually plant the seeds in there. Now this year, slightly different scenario. Every year for the last, 10 or more years, I've used peat-free organic multi-purpose compost to start my seeds off, and it's always done a great job, and that's what I've got every year, organic multi-purpose compost. However, this year I couldn't get any anywhere, and when I did a bit of research, I found out that the company has actually gone bust. So this year, the only thing I could find, the closest I could find, was a peat-free multi-purpose compost. It wasn't organic, but I found the one with the least amount of nasties in, and it's as organic as I could possibly find. And it is peat free, and it's just a general multi-purpose, which I'm growing the seeds in this year. So I was a little bit disappointed because I sort of looked around, and I went to several different places and they didn't have this compost, and as I say, apparently there's a gap in the market there somewhere because the company's gone bust. So that's what I use. I just use this multi-purpose compost, and I put it on all the different trays or my little cups for different sorts of seeds, and then I keep it nice and warm. Give it a bit of a water, because then the compost is damp and you don't have to water it quite so much when you plant the seeds, so you haven't got the risk of overwatering them or washing them out of the pot. As long as the compost is damp, that'll be great. But I can tell you a bit more about that when I actually plant the seeds. So this is what I'm doing today. I'm sort of getting prepared. I'm a bit fussy, as I say, and I like to get my seeds prepared, my seed trays prepared, get them nice and warm, and then in a couple of days time I'll be putting my little seeds in there and planting them, and then hopefully, because I've treated them with kid gloves and been very fussy for them, I'm hoping they'll reward me with growing really well. But you never can tell with seeds, you never can tell, it's a bit hit and miss. It's not an exact science, I don't think, but that's what I like to do, so that's what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so I'm making the most of having a bit of time in the polytunnel, and I hope that was useful. And if you want to give that a go, might say, especially with the smaller seeds, things like peppers and tomatoes, they do seem to appreciate that little bit extra heat. and so you never know, that might help you out. Okay, well, I hope you enjoy your garden, and I hope your training's doing well and that you're not flooded out like we are, but hopefully the weather can get better now, spring just around the corner, and I'll see you next time.